So in this video we're going to keep moving on towards our final product. So if we go ahead and look back at this preview, what we're trying to make this screen. It's a compilation of these 4 layers, and this is what they look like as individual layers. So right now we have most of this set up and most of this set up. So what we're going to want to try to finish is layers 1 and 2 in this video. So let's go ahead and get started. So there are a few things that we need to do here. The first thing is we still have this kind of this yellow right here that we want to get rid of. So I'm just going to come back down here and find that yellow. It's like a faint yellow because we had an opacity of 0.1. So I'm going to go ahead and get rid of that. I'm going to make that clear. That was just to kind of help us understand where things were. So save that. Now it's gone. First thing's good. The next thing I want to do is, I don't know if you noticed, but this title is not visible. And it's not that the title is not visible. It's that the background is white and the title itself is also white. So let's go ahead and fix that. And to fix that, what I actually need to do is, I know we said this is a compilation of 4 layers, but we're going to almost call it a 5th layer. What we're going to do is we're going to put a layer right behind it, so layer 0, you might say. And that layer is going to be just a standard color. So for now, it'll just be standard color. Eventually, it'll be gradient, but for now, it's going to be standard color. So back there, it's just going to be color dot. Let's just do for something quick, which is the color dot blue. And what we're going to do is we're going to make sure that it fills up this area up here too. So we're going to write dot edges, ignore, safe area all. So what that does for us is it fills that up there, and that looks just a little bit cleaner instead of having that ugly space up there. So to even take it a step further, I'm going to make it a different color than just that right there. I'm going to do the red. I'm going to actually make it dark blue. So I'm using the init red, green, blue, so the RGB. We discussed that earlier. And to make a nice dark blue, I'm actually just going to open a color picker. I'm going to go to Chrome. I'm going to pick a color there, so I'm just going to Google color picker. Pick a color I like a nice dark blue in this range. So I'm going to take the 61, 89, and 115. And these numbers are on a scale of 0 to 255. And these numbers here, it'll be on a scale of 0 to 1. So what that means is that it's not 61 for red, it's 61 over 255. And the next one is not 89, it's 89 over 255. And that's because this is looking for values from 0 to 1. But the whole point is, you're just kind of moving that over. So instead of writing 89 over 255, I could find that decimal. That's another option. But then I'll do 115 over 255. You'll notice it all comes together just like that. So that is perfect. Let's go ahead and clean up the font on this title. So we're going to want something a little bit bigger. And the way we can do that, we can just say dot font. And the font I want is a system font. And when I see all these different fields, I don't have to use size, weight, and design. I can just kind of clear out the ones that I don't want. So I'm going to get rid of design. I just want the size and the weight. So I want something around size 20. And the weight, I'm going to do bold. Maybe even a little bigger, like a nice 24. And that subtitle, what I'll do is I'll do something similar, except I'll do a size 16. I'll give it a medium weight. And that is exactly what I was hoping for. So that's looking pretty good. Alright, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to change this here. Right now we have, if you remember, we created these, we did this for each loop here. If we scroll down, this for each, and for each number from 0 to 30, we created a total of 30 of these texts, and we want something better than texts here. Texts are not really what we're looking for. So in order to fix that problem, what we will do is the following. So instead of saying every time you loop through this, create a new text, what we can actually do is we can create a custom view for it to insert here. And let's go through what that means. So I'm going to create a new file. I'm going to say File, New, File, and a SwiftUI view, not a Swift file. We want a SwiftUI view. Now, the SwiftUI view, what we'll call it is, I like to create things that I consider reusable. So I'm going to call this LImage underscore text underscore RImage. And I'm just writing for myself kind of, just a text version of what I'm going to be creating. So I'll click create, and if I resume this right here, you'll see that we just have a hello world again, which is not really what we're looking for. What I am trying to make here, essentially, I'm trying to make an H-stack, trying to make a rectangular button that will be black and will contain it'll either contain just the text and a right image, or it can sometimes contain a left image and then text and then a right image, in case I want to display maybe a picture of the song, album cover, then the text, and then a button. But this will be kind of like an optional picture on the left, and then I'll definitely have some text, and then these are called ellipses. So the ellipses on the right to designate that we're going to have a more button. So what I want to do is I want to create in this new view. It's going to be an H stack. That H stack is going to have two things. It's going to have a text. We'll make that say title, and it's going to have an image, and we'll make that say, well, what the image we'll choose to use here is going to be system name and ellipsis. Just to reiterate, when I say system name, that means that I'm going to be pulling the image from the SF symbols library. So that means that I'm going to be pulling this image here, ellipsis or ellipses. So when I try again, you'll notice that we got a text and a title, okay? And I want to give this whole H stack, I want to give it a background color of black, and I want to give everything inside of it a foreground color of white. Sorry, just white. Starting to look like what we're looking for, okay? And I want to push this all the way to the left, this text, and I want to push the ellipses all the way to the right. So put a spacer in between them. And the last thing that I want to fix here is I want this padding. So what I can actually do is I can create padding. I have two options. My first option would be to create some distance on the left of title and on the right of the ellipses. But even easier than doing that, instead of saying, so my option number one is to come here and say dot padding. And this is not the option we're going to use, so you don't have to follow along. It's up to you. Just want to give you a feeling of what you can do. So I'm going to do, option one is to say the title is going to have a padding on the leading side of, let's say, 20 pixels. And that takes care of that one. And I can say the image is going to have padding on the trailing side of 20. And there it gives me the right buffer, or the padding. But the issue now is I'm spending all this time doing leading and trailing, and I can do a top for this and a bottom for this, but it's too tedious. Even better would be to actually come here before the background, okay, and say that we have a padding of 20. And the default value, I think it is 20 if I remember correctly. But let's make something a little nicer. Probably around 10 is what we're looking for, maybe 15. And there we go. It actually takes care of the left, the top, the right, and the bottom, okay? So when we put padding, we need to make sure we put it before the color black. Otherwise, what it'll do is it'll create this entire view with a black background and create a clear padding. So the order is important. That's very, very crucial. So if I put padding before the background, then it designates the size, and then it assigns that color to the entire size. But if I put background first, technically it did what I wanted. It created something with a padding that has 15, but notice the black background does not affect the padding because the padding came after. So that's why order is important. And so that kind of gives us our reusable view that we're hoping for. And I know I said I'm going to put a left image, but we'll get back to that, okay? Actually, you know what, let's just put it right now. So I'll go ahead and I'll put that image on the left. And I'm just going to pick an arbitrary image. One of the images I actually really thought was nice to look at was time-lapse. So I'm going to name this one I'm going to pick the time-lapse image. It's going to be on the left-hand side. And for this one item, I might give it a padding just on its trailing side. Let's say trailing 10. And that gives us some nice distance there from the image, text, and more button, or the ellipses, okay? So now what I'll do is I'll save that, okay? And we go back here. Now, instead of creating a text with the number inside of it, let's go ahead and actually do something a little better. Let's say that every time it runs through the for each loop, we want it to create one of these L image underscore text underscore our image. Now you'll see when it updates, it created this nice reusable item. And that's exactly what we were looking for. That is exactly this right here. So that's getting us one step closer, okay? So let's go ahead and look at one crucial piece of this puzzle. Let's go here. And let's look at the desktop, code tutorials. And one important piece, let's take a look at this sample that we were dealing with. So one nice thing is that we have this gradual fade over the entire area. It's not just this little one right here. We have a nice gradual fade. So let's go ahead and add that in. It's going to actually fix two problems. First, it's going to make everything look a little nicer. But the other thing is, do you notice that when I get to the end of this scroll, we have this black area down here? That's not really what we're looking for. So, I mean, there's two ways to fix that. The first one is to create a spacer on top, for the top half of the screen. That's this color, and then another spacer on the bottom half of the screen that could be black. That's one option. But even better than that, and we'll actually fix this idea of a continual gradient. We can do something a little even nicer. So what we can do is, for this area, well, actually, let's go ahead and start with the first idea. Let's get rid of this for a second. And let's just let's add a gradient. So we'll go back to gradient. We'll add a linear gradient. Sure enough, it's not what we're looking for at all. But zoom out and get a better look. It's not what we're hoping for, but let's give it a edges ignore. So the edges are now going to ignore the safe area. That'll let us fill that in. Okay, we'll ignore all the safe areas. So now it fills up that top area and fills up that bottom area. And what we'll do here is for the colors, that's right, gradient, colors. Alright, let's go ahead and get rid of the default values. And the colors I want are going to be, it'll start at, let's do this, if you remember the color we got from the color picker, we're going to rewrite that in. So we'll do color dot red. So we'll get that init red. Okay, and we'll do 61 over 255, 89, and 115. Okay, and we want it to end at color dot black. We're getting there, but now it's going left to right, so we need to fix it by telling it, instead of going from leading to trailing, we want it to go from top to bottom. And now we got something that's looking a little nicer. Look at the bottom here. We're getting rid of that issue. If we want to make it even better, what we can do is simply the following. Let's go ahead and put them on separate lines so it's easier to read. So the first color is this. And then what we can do is we can just put the black there twice. So that means that it'll go black to black and then to this other color. Now that black is fully there. Scroll back up and it's looking good. If we actually scroll up here, this looks like a much nicer fade. You can scroll up. So that takes us to the end of layers 1 and layers 2. Alright, we'll move on to layers 3 in the next video.